Climate change is arguably the biggest economic, social and environmental challenge facing every city in the world, and no more so than here in Belfast in Northern Ireland. As Commissioner for Resilience, my job is to make sure that the city understands the risks ahead, understands how it's going to affect the whole city, its communities and its people. And of course, I'm not doing that by myself, and I shouldn't do it by myself. So over the course of the next few minutes, I want to talk about the actions that I'm taking with partners in 5 areas to ensure that we're future-proofed, that we're fit for the future and ready to tackle the effects of climate change in all of those forms across the city. Now, the map in front of you shows, using the best available data to us, just what Belfast may look like in 2050. And that's because of our proximity to water, the way in which the city has developed over time, and it shows in really stark terms how our lives may change. Look at the social assets, the economic assets, and look at the number of people who live in that area in the red map, part of the map. That's critically important to us, and everything we do right now is about planning to mitigate the effects of climate change and doing that at a citywide level. So here's the 5 areas and the 5 approaches that we've taken to ensure that Belfast is taking urgent action on climate change. The first thing is get the right people in the room. Belfast's size and our scale means that we can bring everyone together, virtually and in person, when possible, to start to plan for the long term. We've set up 2 structures. The first is the Belfast Climate Commission, and that's a think tank made up of academics, planners and statisticians, people who have access to data but know what to do with it and know how to use it to predict the future and to give us advice about the actions we need to take. And the second structure is our Resilience and Sustainability Board. That's made up of delivery agencies in the city, our housing executive, our water organisation, our transport authority, working together in an integrated way to find solutions. So we now have 2 structures and the right people in the room. But we need data, and we need to know the problems that we're trying to solve and to prioritise them. So we commissioned a milestone. That's an economic analysis of decarbonisation. It's a carbon roadmap. It tells us where the biggest sources of greenhouse gases are and where our major emissions are coming from. So that's the second approach. Make sure we have the data, because that will inform where we need to put our energy and our activity. And on to the third area of focus for us. Now that we have the people in the room, now that we know what the data is telling us, we need to prioritise. The Mini-Stern told us absolutely clearly that our focus needs to be on buildings and it needs to be on transport. And that's what we've been doing, undertaking readiness assessments to make our buildings as energy efficient as possible, and those new buildings as they come forward to ensure that they are low emissions, low carbon and eventually zero carbon in their nature. And also our transport infrastructure being as ambitious as possible, both in terms of our bus transport, our public transport across the city, but also our freight and everything, all people, goods and services that we move around the city. In this decade, we need a plan for making them zero carbon. On to the fourth approach, and that's making sure that everything that we do happens locally and at the most local opportunity that we possibly can. So our Climate Commission is pulling together a core work stream on community climate action, making sure that communities take the decisions themselves on the activities that they want to take. And that makes Belfast unique in terms of making sure that we have a participative and a ground-up approach to climate mitigation, to climate resilience, and to developing a local and a green economy. But of course, we're a city within a global network and a global ecosystem, so we also want to play our part in working with other cities to learn from them and where we can to give them our advice on what we've learned. So our last and our final approach is ensuring that we're playing an active role in global networks. We're a member of the Global Resilient Cities Network, so we work alongside other cities like us, university cities, port cities, to learn and work with them to find solutions to climate change and making sure that we're taking the right action. And we also work alongside cities in the UK through the Place-Based Climate Action Network. So we're partnering with Edinburgh and with Leeds to ensure that as we develop our buildings and transport, we're doing it in the right way and building the right infrastructure. Often, climate change and the challenges that it brings to us can overwhelm us. And sometimes that means people look away because it's too difficult to find solutions. But not in Belfast. We have a group of partners who are optimistic, who know what they want to achieve, but are also really focused on where the solutions are. We're achieving clarity through action, and at a city level and at a local level, I think that puts us in a really strong position to be as prepared as possible for the effects of climate change.